Get strong.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's The Beautiful Bag podcast. I have our guest this week is Michelyn. She is the president and founder of Nascent. If you don't know what that is, we're going to talk a little bit about it. We're also going to get into the conversation of, why she decided to create this company that she created and some of the stories that she has heard, from some of her customers. So Michelyn, see, I did it. Michelyn. It's the Boston part of me. I say things too fast.
Okay.
Michelyn, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. So, let's get into it. So let's talk about, the journey of what brought you to creating the company that you created.
Basically, it was years ago in the mid-90s, due to a good family friend that has an ileostomy and has had her ileostomy since her early 20s due to, Crohn's colitis. And she, always complained about there not being anything that was really reliable and that worked really well to help control the odor. And came up with an idea between she and my mom, and created this formula, and the idea kind of blossomed into, let's take this a step further and introduce it to the market. So in 1998, I started the company and just kind of took it from there. At that time, I only knew a little bit about, what it was, all about to have an ostomy and that sort of thing. So it's definitely been a learning experience for me along the way. And, Linda, by sharing her experiences and that sort of thing, and knowing her situation, was our main inspiration to help, create a product that could provide a better quality of life for people, with an ostomy. I know it's different for everybody, but I know over the last 23 years that I've been doing this, it's definitely made a huge difference in a lot of people's lives, and that's, bottom line is our main or my main, I should say, inspiration and motivation to keep things going and have, kept things going over the years. So I've definitely had my struggles with any small business, and we're family owned and operated, but Linda was our initial inspiration and motivation for it. So
I love that. Now, you said in there you had you learned a lot, over the past 23 years. What are some of the things that you have learned when it comes to, learning more about what life is like for people in ostomies?
Oh gosh, I've always made it a point to really kind of get to know, especially in the beginning, a lot of my customers. And after speaking with so many different people about their situation, and everybody's situation is different. Some have told me stories of, their ostomy is due to, cancer. Some have told me that, they all of a sudden felt a sharp pain, passed out. Next thing you know, they wake up in the hospital and they have an ostomy bag. And for especially individuals like that, it's devastating, and it's just, heartbreaking to, to hear all of the different stories that I've heard. and of course, people that have gone through years of just being sick with Crohn's disease or, colitis and all the other different things that can, you know, cause someone to have surgery. It's, and people have been good enough to, share their personal experiences with us. And it's, learning about, from beginning to where they are on all of the hurdles and the challenges and what it's like to, deal with this on a daily. And I don't know that it's necessarily anything that you necessarily get used to, but eventually you do adjust. And over the years, it's always been, with our product, and the feedback that we've gotten, how it's helped, change people's lives and given them the confidence that they need to get out and at least, try to live a normal life, with an ostomy bag. So, like I said, that's, been my motivation, is knowing that, I'm helping people, and because I've stayed, I guess you could say, on the forefront of my customers and people that, use our product over the years. I've just made a point to really personally, get to know them and understand their needs and what it's like. Because even though I don't have an ostomy, and you can never say to anybody, I understand or whatnot, but I can at least try to, empathize and understand what their needs are and listen to their stories and truly care about, what's going on with them in their life.
Exactly. And so what are some of the things, so you said that, you created your product, has it evolved over the 23 years from what it initially was? And what are some of the confidence stories that have come out of it that you've heard?
As far as like how it's evolved, as far the formula is still the same. We still do it the same we did years ago, making it in small batches. And a lot of people are, of course, the time it's like, you should outsource it and that sort of thing. But I've learned that it's been more important for me to stay in control, to make sure the quality is consistent. Number one. And some of the stories, like in the beginning, there's a gentleman from Pennsylvania, and it really caused some huge issues with him and his wife, and the letter and the review that he sent us was just, so thankful for creating this product. And he emphasized about how sensitive his wife's, sense of smell is and that sort of thing. And he's like, you literally saved my marriage.
Well, that is true. That is true. Cause I mean, sometimes like we were talking about prior to, I mean, even with myself, I'm in a colostomy. So, I have the majority of my colon, I lost about a foot of it. And so I have the process to go through, but I know a lot of people that are in ileostomies and, have lesser parts of their colon. It's really the food not processing all the way through is what the smell ends up becoming.
Right. Yeah. And I've learned that too, so, and it's kind of funny because over the years, some people will say that have an ileostomy. Well, I don't have an issue with odor. And then there's other people that say, it's horrible for me. I feel like an ileostomy is the worst. But again, you're right in that sense that it does really depend on, how much of, their intestinal tract had to be removed, and that it does make a big difference in the situation, medications and different things like that. And there's always some sort of diet restrictions. Some people don't really have very many diet restrictions, and then, some do. So, it just depends from person to person. But the bottom line is I think for 23 years now, we've, proven ourselves time and time again that just making a difference in people's lives. There's been stories of one lady, her dad was in the hospital, and he was just devastated over the fact that he had to have this surgery done. And he wouldn't allow visitors in. He just became really withdrawn, and recluse. And his daughter doing some research on our product, ordered the sample, we sent it, and she's like, "Dad, let's just give this a try." And she wrote me back, and she's like, "I can't believe," she says, "I put my nose right up to the bag and I can't smell a thing." And it changed his whole outlook. I mean, the thought of, someone having to go through that, it really just can make a difference between how they accept their ostomy and how they deal with it. Are they going to go home and just sit and become depressed? Or are they going to be like, okay, so I have this now, but at least the odor is the one less thing that I have to worry about. So it just makes a big difference, and that's really important to me. And through the struggles over the years, I know, I'm not gonna lie, it's been hard. There's been times where it's like, this is hard, and for small businesses, especially with the last, couple of years with, the pandemic and whatnot, it's been a struggle. But, I get that phone call or I get that email from somebody that just says, how much of a difference it's made in their life. And it's like, this is why I do what I do. So,
Right. So how has your personal life changed within hearing all of these stories?
I think it's definitely given me an appreciation for, my situation, I guess you can say, compared to theirs. But at the same time, it also reminds you that, hey, I could be my own customer someday. You never know. Don't take things for granted. Don't just automatically assume that, you know what I mean? And I think the one thing too that I've noticed, especially within the ostomy community, is a lot of these people have been given a new lease on life, and to hear some of their stories and their the courage and just I'm not even sure really how to describe it, except for just to say, like I said, the courage that they have shown, and the resilience in moving forward. It's just been incredible. I remember reading a story here not too long ago. I think it was within the last maybe year, a young lady that had avoided the surgery for a really long time. And at the time, her fiance, excuse me, he was just always so supportive of her and all the different surgeries and whatnot. And then when she finally went ahead and did it, and and then they got married, and now they have a child, and it's just, it's stuff like that. It's like, wow, that's incredible. I mean, I've been through my life struggles, but it's inspiring, you know, it truly is. It's just inspiring to hear some of these stories. And it just it gives me a great deal of respect for, people that have to go through what they've gone through in the course of, having an ostomy. So
I love that. I love that. It's, and thank you from an ostomy. Thank you, for noticing, thank you for that, because I do know, and you've heard the stories, and I know that you have quite a few people, on your website who, all of that, like you said, you stay in touch with your customers. You've gotten to know personally your customers. So, the amount of stories and struggles that you've probably heard, was it shocking to you to know that, to learn things like, oh, you can have a child, like you can get pregnant and carry a child full term and have an ostomy and have it stuck on, like stories like that? How was that for you?
But that was pretty incredible, because I having 4 children myself, I'm thinking to myself, my gosh, how, knowing that, when I was pregnant and everything's all shifted around and stuff like that, that has to be quite the challenge, I'm sure. So that was pretty incredible to hear. And then, of course, the stories of, how significant others and spouses have been so supportive. And unfortunately, I have heard the stories of, significant others that have said, no, I can't do this. And it's heartbreaking. And over the years, I'll never forget my first time when I got the phone call that one of my customers lost their struggle with whatever disease it was that they were, going through, and passed away. And I was devastated. I was like, and I think that was the first time that the reality was like, my gosh, what it must have been like. And then at the same time, family members are saying, but your product really helped them, their last few days or their last time, with living a better quality of life, and so that made me feel good. But at the same time, I got to admit that it was heartbreaking to hear. I cried the first time, I got that call from, and that was, of course, years ago. But and after that, there's been several since, and it's just like, and I think it's that kind of reminds you not to take life for granted, and just the things that most of us do take for granted in life, so and I think that's just I think it's important to recognize those people that go through those struggles, for me, because it will kind of helps me connect better, on a level that, maybe a lot of companies really can't connect with them, so that's just been important to me.
Well, I love that. Well, Michelyn, I did it again, Michelyn. It is the Boston accent. I talk too fast. I really have appreciated having you on today, and sharing some of the stories that you've heard, and some of the struggles that your customers have been through over the 23 years, and how your company's evolved over that time, and the struggles, the things that you've learned as a person, hearing the stories that you've heard over time. If you were to leave the listeners with one thing, what would that be?
Not give up on hope. That, you know, that tomorrow is another day, and there really is a light at the end of the tunnel, and not giving up, to keep moving forward, because you know and of course everybody's situation is different, but to have that second lease on life for most of those dealing with having to make the decision and getting having ostomy surgery, as hard as it may be, just not to give up on hope, not to let those struggles bring them down, and that the support out there is huge, that I've learned over the years, more importantly. And as a small company, like I said, for us to keep that connection with people, and that's why we continue to give out the free samples and that sort of thing, and offering whatever assistance we can possibly provide to people that need help. And as far as I know, that there's been plenty of times where people will call me to request samples to try. They don't have access to a computer, they're looking for particular information. So I've spent numerous hours just helping people and say, well, I got a computer right here, what are you looking for? Let me see what I can do to help. Looking for support group meetings in the general area, and just sending them what I can through mail and that sort of thing. So I think that's the other thing, is to make sure that everybody knows that we're here and we will do whatever we can to help within our means. So just don't give up hope.
That is a beautiful message, and that is a beautiful way to end this week's podcast. Michelyn, thank you so much for being here with us this week. Really, truly have appreciated it.
Thank you so much for having me. I don't know if